In this video, I will show you how you can get the Navy Federal Flagship card with the highest credit limit even if you have bad credit. What's up, winners? My name is Nam. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Here we talk all things personal finance and credit. Start now by subscribing so you don't miss out on any future videos. So before we start discussing how to get this card, the worse your credit score is, the harder that it will be. But there are always ways to climb the ladder. So if this is you, this is definitely gonna be a process and gonna take some time. So let's get right into it. Now, my personal opinion is that the Flagship card is probably the best credit card that you can get from Navy Federal. So let me give you a quick rundown of what this card is all about. So at a glance, you can spend 3x points for every dollar that you spend on travel and 2x points on everything else. Currently, they do have a promotion of earning 30,000 bonus points after you spend $3,000 in purchases within the first 90 days, and they also have a low intro APR for purchases made within the first 6 months. Then after that, it will just be variable. You can also receive up to $100 in credits for global entry and TSA PreCheck, so if your current credit cards does not provide this already, then this is an added benefit. Probably the only downside with this card is that there is an annual fee of $49 per year. But one of the key reasons on why you may want to get this card is that this is a perfect everyday card, and not only just for travel since you get 2x on everything. But with this credit card specifically, you can get up to a credit limit of $80,000. So you may be asking, why in the world does anybody need to get an $80,000 credit limit? Well, everybody's a little bit different and they got different needs. Some people like to have a higher credit limit so they can leverage it to make more money. Some people just bought a new house, so they may be racking up a lot of expenses. So there are plenty of other reasons. Now, the thing with Navy Federal is that most of the credit cards besides the Flagship card, you can get a credit limit up to $50,000 a piece. So you can have 3 credit cards with Navy Federal at one time, but you can only have $80,000 of a credit limit across all of those accounts. Because there is some misinformation out there saying that you can receive 3 credit cards, including the Flagship, with a maximum credit limit of $180,000. But this information is not correct. You can only receive $80,000 across all credit cards. Moving on, first you gotta be a Navy Fed member. If not, let me give you a quick rundown of how to get in. You might have heard about backdoor options and things like that, but it's really not that difficult to get into Navy Fed. The most basic and general way to get into this credit union is that you gotta have some sort of affiliation with the military. Either you are in the military yourself or you have a family member that are affiliated. Even if those affiliations are not already members of this credit union, you can still use their credentials to get access. Additionally, people who are DoD civilians can join as well. Another way to get into Navy Fed is that if you live with someone who's already a member. So let's just say that you have a roommate who is a member. You can piggyback off of their membership as long as you can show that you live at the same address. Now, once you become a member, let's talk about when you should apply for the credit card. There's no specific time range, so as soon as you become a member, you can apply for the credit card that same day. I know that some in the past might have said that you should be a member for about 6 months to a year, but from what I've seen, it really does not make that much of a difference. What plays a factor really comes down to your creditworthiness and your debt to income ratio. If your credit is average or below average, there's gonna be some extra steps that you need to take before you can get the Flagship card. This is where relationship building is key. So once you become a member or you already are a member, you can pre-qualify for one of the credit cards directly through their website. As a reminder, pre-qualification is just basic information that they use and it does not affect your credit score. But if you go ahead and move forward with the application, this is where there will be a hard inquiry. So whenever you do pre-qualify, they'll just ask for basic information such as your total annual income and your monthly housing expenses. Now, once you click submit, if you see the Flagship card as one of those cards that you are pre-qualified for, you can go ahead and apply for the card due to the fact that you have very high odds of getting approved. Of course, a pre-qualification is not guaranteed, but more times than not, if you do get pre-qualified, you will get approved. So if you are pre-qualified for the Flagship card and your credit score is in the good to excellent range, which is 680 and above, you can then go ahead and just apply. As I mentioned before, this will incur a hard inquiry just like any other credit card. One thing to make note of is that if you want to better your odds, you can always try the late night hack. I know that there are a lot of people who swear by this, so if you were to apply late at night, I believe that their headquarters is on the East Coast. So if you were to apply at midnight in any time zone, especially if you live in the US mainland, then you should be good. The theory behind this hack is that underwriters are not in the office, so this triggers an automatic approval, or the AI does its own thing and approves based on your information that they do have. In theory, this tends to give you better odds and higher credit limits. So based on the data points that I have gathered, there is a lot of people who swear by this and it does work, and there are a lot of people who said they tried it and it did not. But in all honesty, it does not hurt to try. If any of you guys have ever tried a late night hack before, let me know in the comments and tell me how did it work for you. So before applying for a Navy Federal credit card, here are a few things that you need to know first. The first thing that you need to know is that you want to have your hard inquiries low, ideally less than 7 on your TransUnion credit report. If you are unsure of how many hard inquiries that you do have, there are a few ways that you can check. First, you can simply download the Credit Karma app, which is 100% free. Link is down in the description, where you can request a free annual credit report from annualcreditreport.com. Either method that you select, you should be able to see how many inquiries that you have within the past 2 years. If you have over 8 or more hard inquiries, then you want to review who pulled your credit, and if none of those are active accounts or inaccurate, then it may be worth looking into getting them removed. If you are unsure of the process to do so, I have made a video on this particular topic, so I will link it down below or up here. And as a shameless plug, I do have a course on this as well. If you are unsuccessful in removing these hard inquiries, then you may have to wait for some of them to fall off, which can take up to 2 years. The next thing that you should do is try to pay off any active credit cards that you have open right now. This is something that you should do before any credit card application, not just with Navy Federal. So ideally, you want to keep this as low as possible. Less than 10% is ideal, but it's best to keep it to 0 if you're planning to apply for another credit card. Next is that you need to know that Navy Federal pulls from your FICO 9 TransUnion credit report for credit applications. But in addition to that credit score, they are now using another TransUnion product called Credit Vision for additional information. All this means is that they're pulling more data from other sources and credit bureaus such as LexisNexis, SageStream, and other sources that we don't know of. But the one thing that you need to know about FICO 9 is that medical debt and collections are less of a factor. Additionally, if you have paid collections or collections that have a 0 balance, FICO 9 does not take these into account. That's why Navy Federal is pretty forgivable for people with previous derogatories. Now, let's talk about applying. When you pre-qualify and you don't see the flagship card as an option, but there are other options for credit cards, go ahead and apply for one of those. Now, once you get approved, this is where you hope that you have a high enough credit limit. So for individuals who have bad or poor credit, I would say that if you're in the range of 500 or mid 500s, you still have pretty good odds of getting an unsecured credit card from Navy Federal. It just depends on your debt to income ratio and your relationship with this credit union. So if you are newer to Navy Federal, the chances of getting an unsecured credit card right off the bat, if you have a bad credit score, is gonna be a little bit slimmer. So they may start you off with a secure card, which can eventually graduate you to an unsecured line of credit. Now, if you are not being offered a flagship, but you do get approved for another unsecured line of credit, and the credit line is larger than $5,000, this is when you have to let time take its course. Because if your credit limit is at least $5,000 or greater, this is the only way that you can do a product change to the flagship card after 1 year. Because at minimum, whenever you do apply for the flagship card, they give you a minimum of at least a $5,000 starting limit on the low end. Based on data points of what I've seen, if your credit score is pretty good, they tend to give you around $20,000 to $25,000 right off the bat. But if your credit score is a little bit on the lower side or you need some help, you will be starting off with something lower. Now, if your credit limit is below $5,000, this is where you would have to wait to request for a higher credit limit. This is a rule that Navy Federal has, which is the 91-3 rule. Essentially, you have to wait at least a minimum of 91 days or 3 billing cycles before requesting a credit limit increase. I recommend just marking your calendar at least 95 days after you requested or got approved before asking. So same as a credit card application, you can also use the late night hack for credit limit increases as well. So during the request, they're gonna ask you what's your desired credit limit, your income, and your housing situation. Remember, the name of the game is to have a credit limit of at least $5,000 or higher. Based on the current data points and given the whole current economic situation, a lot of banks and credit unions are a little bit more stingy in handing out credit limits. So I experienced this firsthand recently when I requested for a credit limit increase, and they only give me an extra $8,000. I do have a 6-figure income and an excellent credit score, but I think I had a lower credit limit increase due to the fact that I recently got a car loan through them. And I don't think they want to overextend you on lines of credit. If I had requested the credit limit increase prior to getting the car loan, I think I would have gotten a lot more. I have heard that most people saying that they were able to get at least a $4,000 credit limit increase with no problems. So if your starting limit is at least $1,000, I think you got pretty good odds of getting at least $5,000 in total. Now, if your credit limit increase is still not over $5,000 yet, after your initial request, you'll still have to wait another 181 days before you can request for another one. Because if you request one earlier than this, you have a high probability of getting denied. So in the meantime, you have to continue building a relationship with Navy Federal. Because one thing that Navy Federal takes into consideration a lot is your relationship with them. Set up direct deposits, have no overdrafts or any negative balances with them. The better your account standing is with them, the better that they will treat you when you request for lines of credit. So once you break that threshold of a $5,000 credit limit, this is when you have to wait at least 1 year to request for a product change for the Navy Federal Flagship card. Now, in the meantime, this is where you would want to continue working and building your credit. So if you have high debt or utilization on your credit cards, work on them to pay them down because your credit score may grow to meet that threshold to pre-qualify for the flagship automatically, so you won't even have to do a product change. Or maybe you're able to repair your credit, either by working with an agency or doing it yourself. If you worked on removing your negatives, this can dramatically increase your score and better your odds of getting the flagship card without waiting that year. As another shameless plug, I do have a DIY credit repair masterclass. If you want to learn how to repair your credit as I did for my clients, link will be down in the description. So let me know in the comments if you're able to get the flagship card and what credit limit that you got. But if you weren't pre-qualified for the flagship card right away and still trying to figure out what Navy Federal card to get first, come check out these videos over here.